So this week, we're going to review the parami of truthfulness. This parami is about honesty. Perhaps it's, perhaps one of the most challenging aspects of mindfulness practice is that it asks us to look at ourselves, at what the self is up to, what it's saying and doing and thinking, and to look honestly, to self-reflect. Seeing ourselves unfiltered, without makeup, so to speak, is not for the faint at heart. We are encouraged to look as, say, a wise and loving, trusted elder might look. See through their eyes and hearts. See the truth of who we are, for better and for worse. Because this is how we learn to grow, how we learn to not cause harm internally and externally. And we start right where we are in this moment. Each day, each moment is new and fresh and offers a chance for us to orient or to reorient back towards non-harm and goodwill. Seeing the truth of who we are allows us also to celebrate the skillfulness, the kind, the generous, the beautiful ways in which we offer in the world. And to keep the unwholesome and the unkind in check. These are loving acts. And this is how we come to trust ourselves and how others come to trust us. What we say, we mean. What we do, we mean. Oh, and out of that, we trust, oh, this person has integrity. This person is worthy of our trust. And while pausing and checking in may sound like a good idea, how often do we really do that? How often do we pause and notice how what we just said or did landed in us? Do we feel good about what we just said or did? Do we want to slink out the back door, pretend it didn't happen, pretend we didn't say or do or not do what we just did? How often do we notice or feel the discomfort and the disquiet inside when we have been unskillful? Now, granted, it doesn't feel so good inside when we've been unskillful, but noticing this offers several advantages. First, by seeing and feeling the unpleasant feelings and their effect in the body, the heart, and the mind, we are noticing the natural warning signs that we can begin to pay attention to in the future. When we say or do X, the effect, the result doesn't feel so good. Let me try to steer clear of that. Let me do my best. All right, that's a good idea. Second, noticing the unpleasantness creates an opportunity to kindly soothe the upset, to practice compassion in here, to remind ourselves that we're still good people. Just like everyone else, we suffer the consequences of putting our foot in our mouth, and we learn the art of ministering compassion to ourselves when we have caused harm, in here and out here. And when someone else has caused us harm, we have the chance to minister. So it is a kindness to notice the hurt and to soothe it. Thirdly, this awareness gives us valuable information for making course corrections that can move us in the direction of non-harm and goodwill, in here and out there. Likewise, how often do we notice, are we honest with ourselves or even notice when we have been skillful? I would venture to guess that most of us are pretty skillful most of the time. And likely we don't get into too much trouble and are, in fact, generally pretty skillful. But how often do we really pause and check in and notice the ease and the peace that comes with being skillful? This, too, is part of the truthfulness of self-honesty. It's not about inflating our ego, but rather right-sizing it, appreciating the way the self may have just handled a delicate situation, or was honest with a friend about what was really bothering us, or simply notice the choice to not tell a fib, or to resist the temptation for another drink or piece of cake, or how we encouraged ourselves to exercise or to meditate even when it was hard. These noticings deepen our trust in ourselves, that sometimes, maybe not always, but sometimes we can do the hard, scary things. Self-honesty suggests that we see this too. It suggests that we see how today we didn't cause much trouble. And seeing this, reflecting on this deliberately, maybe even in our gratitude practice at night, well, it further conditions the skill of skillfulness and the effect, the result of ease, calm, and peace. And that is what we want. This is how we keep growing our hearts in a useful direction. In other words, self-honesty is about seeing the good, the bad, and the ugly, and the near misses. This is not to give reinforcements to the inner critic. No. It is for our welfare that we be truthful with ourselves as much as possible, because it is out of these awarenesses that we begin to grow more skillful, where we begin to learn to notice and keep in check the part of us that wants to lie just a bit, to embellish a story because we can, because it feels good to have that little extra attention, to be a bit more of the hero or a bit more of the victim, or say that we caught a really, really big fish, right? After all, I mean, what's the harm? Who would know? Who would know? Well, you would. You would. And that matters. How do you feel about people who tell big stories? How do you feel when your Aunt Rose or Uncle George, known for telling the big tales, starts to tell you a story? You've been warned. Don't believe what they say. Yes, it's for our welfare that we don't become an Uncle George or an Aunt Rose. Truthfulness instills trust in those around us. We follow through. We're careful with what we say and do because it is our integrity on the line. Truthfulness in the form of self-honesty is for our welfare, and it does require courage. No one really wants to know or recollect the occasions when we've caused harm to ourselves or to another person, consciously or in less conscious ways. But can we, out of respect for ourselves, begin to catch sight of the self that wants to subtly get back at someone who caused us a slight, or say something unkind in a moment of anger or upset? Yeah, it's humbling to see the darker sides of ourselves, but we all have them. And it's kindness to keep them in check. Do we have the courage to pause and check in even after the fact, reflect on an incident and consider our part? Yes, the other person has their stuff too, but can we step back and honestly look at our speech and actions? Not to beat ourselves up, but to learn from our missteps. Oh my. I mean, that's a courageous act of kindness. As they say in the Dharma, we are owners of our karma, of our actions. So looking at our parts helps us to unravel from unhelpful habits. Yeah. Here's the encouragement. Look, take an honest appraisal of how you move through the world. Look at the interactions, how you speak to yourself, how you speak to others, and what you do to yourself and to others. Not to sit in judgment, but to learn how to not cause harm in here and out there. Take an honest appraisal so you can see for yourself the ways in which you are also already skillful, and appreciate them. Make much of them. That will reinforce the habit of skillfulness. We can do this. It's for our welfare. Thank you. Thank you for your kind attention.